Hello, gathered friends, I'm Nuva, and welcome to Bionicle Deep Dive, where we analyze the tropes, characters, and lore of LEGO Bionicle. Today, we're going to be looking at and analyzing the immense amount of subtext happening during the conversation between Takua and Makuta, deep in the underground tunnels. Because depending on how you look at it, this is a deeply layered conversation with a lot of additional meaning on later rewatches. This video is basically an addendum to an earlier one, where I lay out my theory about who knew Takua was destined to become the Seventh Toa during the events of Mask of Light. Check that one out if you haven't seen it yet, as I'm going to be relying heavily on the conclusions I drew from there. The theory goes that at this time, Takua, Jaller, the Turaga, and Makuta all know, or at least very strongly suspect, that Takua is the Toa of Light. With that in mind, the conversation between Makuta and Takua becomes much more interesting, and way more layered. Let's dive right into it. On their journey to find the Seventh Toa, Takua got separated from Jaller and Puku in the tunnels of Onuahi. Makuta's spirit then comes to him and demands that he hand over the mask in exchange for Jaller's life and sparing the remaining villages the wrath of Makuta's Rakshi. During this conversation, Makuta tells Takua, "You will not find the Seventh Toa, and deep down, you know it." This becomes so much more interesting when you realize that Makuta knows that finding the Seventh Toa is a euphemism for becoming the Seventh Toa. Makuta is telling Takua that he is not worthy to become the Toa of Light, and deep down he knows it, preying on Takua's fear that all along he would let everyone down as a hero. Takua then responds with, "So I won't. Maybe Jaller will," which is him admitting that he doesn't think he's worthy of being a hero. I think it's kind of interesting that they stuck to the euphemisms the whole time. It's honestly a pretty fun trope in general when characters discuss things they don't want to say outright, so they play around with their words to keep it close to the vest, despite both sides suspecting the other knows. Though they both would have good reasons for this. Takua most certainly would be afraid to explicitly voice his suspicions that his destiny is to become the Seventh Toa, mainly because he doesn't want it to be true. And Makuta also wouldn't want to say it explicitly, since he doesn't know how much Takua knew, and he always wanted to keep them torn in the dark as much as possible. He especially wouldn't want to fully confirm anything, lest Takua change his mind and choose to transform now. Now, something I found really interesting was the bit about maybe Jaller will, because it can be interpreted in two ways. The first is that Takua believes Jaller will find the Seventh Toa, either literally find a Toa to give the mask to, or find someone else who is worthy of taking up the mantle. But the second way this can be interpreted is that Takua believes Jaller himself is worthy of becoming the Seventh Toa, and Takua is hoping he can pass this destiny on to him. While obviously learn later that even if Jaller did transform into a Toa, he would have become a Toa of Fire, not a Toa of Light, Takua didn't know that's how that worked, as at this point he didn't even know that he was an Matoran, or that Matoran of Light were even a thing. All he believes is that Jaller is better suited for this destiny. In the novelization, his internal monologue talks about how he thinks he would mess up something this important, and that someone responsible and mature like Jaller was needed. While Takua recognized that he's done some brave things in the past, he mostly attributes this to luck due to his own insecurities. He feels he screws up a lot, and that if he had to be consistently relied upon as a hero, he would fail everyone. But regardless of whether Takua thought of himself as worthy, Jaller certainly did. When Jaller and Takua are being chased by the Rakshi in Kauahi, Takua attempts to save Jaller by taking the mask and getting the Rakshis to chase after him instead. Afterwards, Kopaka says what Takua did was heroic, and in the novelization, Jaller says he was looking pretty Herald-like. Though we have to wonder if Jaller wanted to say Takua was looking pretty Toa-like. And even though his faith in Takua was shaken after Takua abandoned him, when Takua came back, so did Jaller's faith, which he held right up to his death and beyond. But we do see that Takua's insecure belief that Jaller was the better choice to become the Seventh Toa was deep, and even carries on long after his transformation. When Takanuva got separated from the future Toa Inika, in his goodbye he exclaims that the universe should have made Jaller the Toa of Light. I also have to wonder if this thought of Jaller being worthy was on the mind of Kathy Hapka, the author of the Mask of Light novelization. In the book, one consistent theme is that the mask glows brighter the closer Takua is to accepting his destiny. It isn't just leading them in physical directions, it's literally responding to Takua's emotional state, glowing brighter when he acts heroic and dimmer in moments when he rejects his destiny. It nearly goes out completely in the book when he abandons Jaller, only to begin glowing slightly again when Jaller resolves not to give up on his quest to find the Seventh Toa. Perhaps the mask is sensing some of the heroic spirit within Jaller. It's an interesting thought that perhaps for a brief time the mask considered giving its power to Jaller. Especially since at the time this was written, the concept of Matorn of Light may not have been solidified in the story team, and it may have been the idea that Takua, a Matorn of Fire, could become a Toa of Light. We may never know exactly what they were thinking at the time, but it is something cool to think about. However, it should be noted that Makuta has absolutely no fear of Jaller becoming a Toa of Light. Jaller had the mask by himself for significant periods of time, and yet Makuta's forces continue to target Takua exclusively, showing Makuta's confidence in his belief that Takua is the destined Matoran. This is even shown in the conversation again. Takua is subtextually saying that maybe Jaller will become the Toa of Light, but Makuta doesn't hesitate, calls his bluff, and is like, yeah, well, if he isn't the Toa, he's gonna die, and it'll be all your fault. A bit of a masterful manipulation move by Makuta, playing both sides of Takua's fears. This whole time, Takua has been comforting himself with the idea that Jaller can take on this destiny. But then Makuta comes in and says if he's wrong, Jaller will be killed, and that this destiny and these choices still land squarely on Takua. Makuta is forcing it into Takua's head that he is both the chosen one and isn't worthy, the worst possible case scenario in Takua's mind, thereby eliminating any hope he has and pressuring him into the deal to give Makuta the mask. And Makuta is doing all this while never actually confirming directly that Takua is the Toa of Light, meaning Takua doesn't even have the solace of certainty in his destiny. Really shows how subtle and ingenious Makuta can be as a manipulator, an aspect of his character that would become core in later arcs. But at the same time, the amount of pressure Makuta is applying really shows how desperate he is to prevent Takua from becoming the Toa of Light, which in a roundabout way kind of confirms Takua's potential for greatness. No bigger endorsement for a hero than making the big bad sweat. But that's our look at some of the additional subtext in Mask of Light surrounding Makuta and Takua's conversation, and who knew about Takua's destiny. What do you guys think? Do you enjoy this theory? And does thinking about Mask of Light in this lens make it more interesting? Let me know in the comments, and I'll see you guys soon. Take care, my gathered friends.